Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Shri Sharada Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaskaram. I welcome you all to this wonderful session of Loksamvad, which is organized jointly by Dakshina Patha Studies and Samvit Kendra. Today, we have an array of wonderful speakers and guests, and I take the privilege of welcoming them on the stage. I humbly welcome Sri Sandeep Singh ji to come onto the dais. Thank you, Singh ji. And I welcome Dr. Lingamurthy ji, our second speaker, to come onto the dais. Please take your seat, sir. Thank you. And I would like to welcome Dr. Rahul Shastri ji, who is chairing this current session, to come onto the dais, please. Thank you, sir. And now we will get started with Saraswati Vandanam by Mohanji.
या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रान्विताम् या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकराम् या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभुतिभिर्देवै सदा वन्दिताम् सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. And now I would like to give a brief introduction of our guest, Sri Sandeep Singh ji. Sandeep Singh ji has authored 12 books, and his latest book is Temple Economics Volume 1 and A Decade for Mandirs Volume 2. His area of interest are Bharatiya way of management and Bharatiya business history. He is a guest faculty at few IIMs and is currently interim chairperson of BOG IIM Kashipur. He is a member of the Managing Council of University of Mumbai, and he sits on several boards as independent director. We are really honored to have you here, sir. And Sri Singh ji will deliver a speech about temple economics. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me and having the program at such a wonderful place. It's really wow. Thank you all for coming on a Sunday morning. Let me start with, as I was introduced, that I've written 2 volumes on temple economics. Is the audio, is it fine? So I must start with saying that why did I write actually the book on temple economics? So during COVID, 2 interesting things happened. The Tamil Nadu government issued a farman, to the mandirs that you must deposit so much of crores. And neither the central government said there is a shortage of fund, nor the state government. but the diktat was there, and many Hindus joined that. Yes, why do mandir needs money? And we Hindus are the biggest enemy of Hindus. Uh, so that was one of the reasons, and they had to withdraw the farman because few people moved to court. They were Hindus. So there are two type of Hindus actually. One is a Hindu and one is Hinu. Hindu in name only. The D is dharma is missing in them. So the Hinu and Hindu. Uh, and the second reason was that we all know that we saw lakhs of people actually walked. I stay in Mumbai, and I come from a place called Gorakhpur in UP, famous because courtesy Yogi ji. And that's by train it's 1600 kilometer. By road it will be few hundred kilometer extra because tracks are straight. And people walked up to Bihar, which is further down from Bombay, and they walk across from Calcutta, from different places. I wondered that what gives them that stamina. It's not a question of stamina also, because I asked my friends who run marathon, will you walk so much of distance? You are a marathon guys, and they run 20 odd kilometers every day as a part of practice. They denied, because walking such a distance is not about running. People walked with their belongings, wife, kids, some cases parents, some cases the pet animals also walked with them. So what gives them that confidence that I can walk few 1600 kilometer? How many of us have confidence to walk 100 kilometers or walk home wherever we are? Within Hyderabad, I'm sure it won't be more than 50 kilometers. Will we walk? When we know there is a food stall every few feet, there'll be a friend if I get tired. But how did you walk on the highway? So that confidence, where does this comes from? This confidence comes from two things. As a Bharati, as a Hindu, we'll not destroy our own properties because we are angry with the government, unlike with a very peaceful community. And the second part is that we have that confidence that somebody, the Hindus will stand by us. The mandirs are there. And I did a rough back of an envelope calculation. 8-10 mandirs had contributed more than 500 crores. It's just that we don't tom-tom about it. They offered food. Some places they offered medicine. They offered them to stay. And people walked. And barring couple of road accident, unfortunate, everybody reached their home safely. We didn't hear that kisi ko loot liya gaya, somebody was. So where does this confidence came from? Because these are the Hindus who actually do Tirth Yatra. They walk Amarnath Yatra, Vaishno Devi, Sabrimala, Ganga Sagar, Pandharpur, you name it. Kanwad Yatra, and we all carry some weight. Even in Sabrimala you would have seen. So they are used to walking. And that's what you realize the impact, that just small Tirth Yatra, when you are told to walk, actually you have been prepared for an eventuality. When needs to walk, you will walk. So these are two very important things. I said that, and these things have gone completely unnoticed. Nobody has noticed it. Then I got working on the book, and the first thing I realized is that if you ask a Christian, he goes to a church. A Muslim goes to a mosque. 2% of the world population, Jews, goes to synagogue. Where does a Hindu go? Majority will say temple. But if you look for a dictionary definition of a temple, it's a place of worship where people gather to worship one, and it's a place of worship of pagans or pagans. Now, who is pagan and pagan? They are the lost civilization. They don't exist anymore. Mayan, Greco-Roman, Egyptian. While we are a living civilization. I'll explain that. And our place of worship, mandir, is very different, because when we install a murti, we do a pran pratishtha. We invite the god to come and stay. It's God's, Bhagwan ka ghar hai. It's abode of the god, and that's why it is known as Devalaya. So we need to at least call our place of worship by correct name. We just don't gather to pray because it's house of the god also. So let's call it Kovil, Devalaya, Mandir, but not temple. If you won't get the name correct, how will you get rest of the things correct? So that's one course correction we need to do. Then coming to the point that what is actually temple economics, how do I explain, or Mandir Arth Vyavastha. I'll give you an example of it. So the city which is based out of modern economics or modern industrial city is actually Detroit, where the first car manufacturing started in early 1900, and that's where the management started. Whole management education and the process took birth from there. But if you look today at the Detroit, it's called a dying city. Whatever it was population was 19 in 1900, today it's 25% of that population. What happened actually? So Detroit was known for manufacturing car. The cars, people started getting manufactured at a cheaper cost in Japan, Philippines, Korea, later in India. So Detroit started dying. So if you do an internet search about Detroit on the internet, you'll find a rust belt of USA. The steel, the plants were there corroding, all the auxiliary units surrounding it. It's a dying city. US is putting a lot of efforts to make it alive. In fact, few years back, they requested Mahindra's, and Mahindra's opened an automobile research center in Detroit. They want to revive the city. If you do a online search of ghost towns in China, Russia, Europe, all you'll find there are many ghost cities. They are modern industrial cities. They are dying. Contrast to that, if you look for some of the oldest living cities in the world, as I said, I'll explain what is living city. You'll find Pushkar, Ujjain, Patliputra, Rameshwaram, Kashiji, or Varanasi. They don't have any industry. But then earth is important, right? So how did they survive? So obviously there is an economic system, Arth Vyavastha, which revolves around the mandir. And do they have their own products? So I'll give an example. We all are familiar with sari, right? Can you think of some of the names of saris? Banarsi, Kanjivaram, Sambalpuri, Dhakeshwari. Each one comes from a mandir city, wherever there is a mandir of a Devi. And the connect is huge. The design that you'll see in a Banarsi sari will be of the same flower and the petal which is offered to goddess Parvati. And in Sambalpuri sari, that will be the one which is offered to Devi Sambaleshwari there. So what is the difference between a Banarsi and a Sambalpuri? Both will be woven in a silk. The design, that is the only difference, right? And the color, because that's the petal and the flower which is being designed. So the fall of the sari that you see will have the shikhar of mandirs. So the one comes from south will have the Dravidian structure, what we call. Coming from the north will have a different one. Coming from Bengal will have a shikhars of the temples of the Bengal. So sari is actually a spiritual garment. And it's not that we have not been able to understand it. It was the Portuguese who got it first. For the 200 years the Portuguese ruled Goa, there was a ban on weaving and wearing of sari. But sari did survive in Goa. So how did it survive? For 200 years, our ancestors, weavers, used to weave the sari in the basement of their house. And women used to wear sari only in the night. Otherwise, they would be penalized. And for 200 years, that's 10 to 12 generations, Imagine the sacrifice our ancestors have done to preserve this for us. And that defines our duty to that. And Portuguese did it because they thought as long as sari is there, people will not convert. As we know, they were very aggressive in the conversion part of it. And once they understood it, look at how beautifully they adopted it. Do you know the Mother Teresa's sari, that white sari with a blue border, is now patented by missionaries of charity. If you wear a sari of that, you will have to pay a royalty to missionaries of charity. How we are losing our own properties in broad daylight, right under our nose. And that's one aspect of the mandir-based economy, how big product is. I don't need to tell you that how many billion rupees industry sari is. That's everybody can make a guess out of it. So talking about how does earth revolves. So we just demonstrated, and what is a living civilization that I must explain. So people live in Egypt. It's an old civilization. There is a pyramid in Egypt, but the people who stay in Egypt today cannot build a pyramid or tell you how to build a pyramid. We have mandirs which are older than pyramid. Just for example, Bradeshwara Mandir. And we can still build a similar mandir. We just built one in Ayodhya without using cement and steel and iron. So how does this knowledge percolates down? So there were 126 universities, not only Takshila and Nalanda, which were destroyed, we lost. It was a Lok Vidya, what we say, which has percolated. Our forefathers passed it down to our forefathers. So generation after generation, that knowledge has percolated down. And that knowledge still exists with us, is a clear symbol that we are a living civilization. And Egyptians are not. So today we are the only living civilization, and mandirs are the biggest example of it. So economy or Arthavavastha is not about monetary exchange. We often confuse between temple revenue and temple economics. So we see that so much of money is being offered, or the rent has come from the landed properties of the mandir, and that we call temple economy. That's a very small subset. That's a temple revenue. Economy is very big. The whole ecosystem runs because of that. Let me give you an example how our science connects. So in Bharat Mandapam, which was known as the Pragati Maidan, you will find a whole huge Nataraj. At CERN in Switzerland, where there is an experiment going on black hole, they're trying to create a black hole. They have installed a statue of Nataraj. Have you wondered why? It's very simple. Because Nataraj represents the construction and disconstruction of the world. And that's what the black hole research starts and ends with it. So that's how they got it there. So if you read a book called Tao of Physics, written by Frizet of Capra, a physicist, he talks about how Nataraj represents the creation and destruction of the universe. And same thing, if you watch, you'll find it on YouTube, Carl Sagan's series on Cosmos. He has devoted a couple of episodes on Nataraj's Murti and how it depicts. So it tells you a couple of things. That it's not only that our ancestors understood destruction and construction of cosmos, our artist could simplify it by putting it in a simple statue of Nataraj, which after thousands of years we can decipher it. So you can just imagine the amount of knowledge it comes from. You know, in one way it's just a statue or a murti to worship, and the other end it's a whole science behind it. And what do you need to know to have understanding of astronomy? You need to have an understanding of place value of decimal and zero. Because if you don't understand zero and decimal, you won't be able to do huge calculation. Now just to tell you that, imagine if I ask you to write simple 1,05,067 in Roman, how much pages it will take? Have you ever thought? And that was the reason why Greco-Roman couldn't do much in astronomy, and hence in sea navigation, because without astronomy, you can't do navigation in the sea. And to understand astronomy, you need to understand zero. So the way there is a World War I and a World War II, similarly in the world of maths, there is something called Maths War I and a Maths War II. To West, the church controlled the science. We all know it, you know. The guys were penalized for saying Earth revolved around the sun and all. So they couldn't decipher the concept of zero. We don't give enough respect to zero. Whether zero is empty or it encompasses 1 to 9. It's a huge philosophical debate. Church took 500 years to figure it out. And the second thing, Maths War II, was integral calculus, which again came from Kerala School of Mathematics, what we know today as. And what is integral calculus? 0 to infinity. Now somebody who couldn't understand zero, can you think they will understand infinity? It took them another 500 years. Where did we understand it? Very simple. What is being told to us is a communal Shanti mantra, Purnamada Purnamadi. Right? If you take out full from full, it will still remain full. Manjul Bhargava, the great mathematician who won the field medal equivalent to Nobel, because of this Shanti mantra, which was taught to him in his home by his grandfather, he told, I have solved all mathematical equations. And today, most of the mathematical equations and integral calculus understanding begins from this shlok. So, one side the church was fighting against the zero. The oldest inscription of zero in the world is found in a mandir in Gwalior. So, our whole science evolved. Coming back to Nataraj statue, it is made even today that huge Nataraj statues are using lost wax technology. How old is that technology? Conservative estimate, 4,500 years. Again, we are a living civilization. Our ancestors has passed down this knowledge from generation to generation to generation. And there are many such examples. Now, this is one science part of it. The next question comes, mandir banane se khana milega kya? Does it gives us food? Yes, it does. We used to have lakhs of varieties of rice in this country. Because of Green Revolution, we lost. And not to blame Dr. Swaminathan for that, because he had mentioned very clearly it shouldn't turn into greed revolution, which we did. That's our mistake. Today in Orissa, only few hundred varieties of rice survive. Because there is a very simple ritual that in a Jagannath Mandir, you will offer a different variety of rice to the god every day. And MS Swaminathan Research Foundation did this research. We have lost other varieties. So how do you preserve seed otherwise? A government will have to create Indian Council for Agriculture Research, and then you'll have to go and dig deep few kilometers below Leh, create a AC chamber of maintaining temperature of -50 to preserve those seeds. Rest of the world does in Switzerland and the Arctic countries. But these have survived because of the mandir. So cabbage, cauliflower, potato, cauliflower are not Indian vegetables. So in a mandir of a puri or a mathura, they are not part of the prasad. And that is the only reasons why our traditional variety of vegetables and flora and fauna have survived. Just to give example, today if you go to a market, have you seen our traditional guava? The huge cabbage sized guava with no taste. Papaya, again, we are losing our original fruits. And whatever variety has survived is just because of mandis, otherwise we would have lost them also. Again, when the British came, they looked at jowar, bajra. They couldn't figure it out. We internalized it, what British said. Today our documents, government records it as a course meal. So something which you won't eat. Now we are promoting millets. The second thing they could understand rice and wheat. They couldn't connect with the different dal or lentils that we have. So they named them, it's worth feeding animals. So they call them chickpea, cowpea. I'm sure you are aware of it. So how did this survive? Because chickpea, besan, chana dal. We have to offer it to a mandir. And that's the only reason it survived. Now every mandir, we offer a different variety of a laddu. We have how many varieties of laddu have you thought of? If we start counting, we can make laddu of everything, you know. And that is the only reason, and that was the pure economic system. That same laddu, if you would have offered chana laddu everywhere, then til laddu would have lost, or a nariyal laddu, coconut. So it is a very region specific. Our prasads are region specific, based on region specific fruits and vegetables. And that's the only reason they survive today. So it is just a beautiful ecosystem which was created and survived because of the mandir. How much time I have? Sorry. Just indicate wherever I have to stop. Similarly, if you go ahead, you will find that our art, culture, you name it, everything originates from mandir. I've talked about the sari, that's the textile. Look at the other aspect of it, which is not much discussed, Devadasis. I've written some, I think 25, 30 pages in the book. They always choose one of our own to hit us. It's been the tradition always. Without realizing, we fall in that trap. So first it was said that women of a lower strata of the society are being forced to become Devadasi, which is not true always. The historical says that many kings' wife, sisters went and become Devadasis. So once they said ki Devadasis should be banned, and if you read history, they were the most ferocious protector of our mandirs. They built many mandirs. One of the generals of Tipu Sultan, I'm forgetting the name of the mandir, wanted to destroy one of the mandirs in Karnataka. The Devdasi took him to the top of the mandir and pushed him from the top, and the general died. So that's the kind of work they did. The Tamil music that we talk, Carnatic music, survived because of contribution of many of the Devdasis. And then we said ki the people, women of a particular caste are being forced into it. It was removed. Then the Brahmins came and took over. And most of those Devdasis, again, of all the people, T.M. Krishna's book records that how conversion increased to Christianity after Devdasi process was stopped, because all musicians, musical instrument makers, they lost their livelihood. They had to convert, but no choice. And then the Brahmins got into it and they adopted it. And today what you see is that Bharatnatyam has become Brahmanical. And then the dissidents of Devdasis, those who got converted, they are coming and saying ki you pushed us away and took away our dance. And we are falling into that narrative trap. And the beautiful part is that what we don't understand, the civilizational war are fought over a period of hundreds of years. The Christians been fighting it. They set up Kalakshetra. They came, on one side they were fighting to ban Devdasi and Bharatnatyam. On the other hand, they were learning Bharatnatyam. And now today we see Bible-based Bharatnatyam. So those things are being snatched. Sari, Bharatnatyam, every part of our culture which originated from the mandir is being snatched us on a wrong narrative which we don't bother deeply enough to look at it. So there are any aspect of the mandir that you look originates from the mandir. Our Arthavavastha survives on mandir even today. The one of the drastic incorrect part that we see happening today is that we are getting into too much of the economic angle of it. It will destroy mandir, because one day we'll sit with a list that this mandir is profitable, this is not, and this is not, so let's destroy it and build a mall on it. So we have to restore the bhakti part of it, not the economy. The revenue is a byproduct. It will come if you have enough bhakti in you. Let's take example of and this money-minded model has reduced to the tender business to get ghee in Tirupati. Anybody who has understood cow or Gai Mata will understand is that you can't have a ghee at the 300 and 350 rupees kg. That's what tendering will do. So let's not get too commercialized with our mandir. And the other part is that today I see is a religious tourism. It's like we are stabbing ourselves in the chest. Tirth Yatra is very different than religious tourism. I see WhatsApp circulation, so many people came instead of Goa to Kashiji. And there's the same people craving that, see what clothes they are wearing, what kind of videos. But then you've got the guy who was going to Goa to Kashiji. Whose fault? He was going with a very different mindset to Goa. So Tirth Yatra is something very different. Now I see people, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-day holiday, let's do a trip to a religious place.